Hi everyone, and welcome back to Jola Speaks, and happy new year. My prayer for you this year is according to Daniel 11:32, which says that they that know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And my prayer is that you hunger for the knowledge of God this year. You will go deeper with Him this year, and in that process you'll be strengthened and also do exploits for Him in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. So this year we're going to start with something very exciting. Jola Speaks interviews. I'm very happy and excited about this actually. And we would be discussing topics that we have learned from Jola Speaks over the years. So focus, submission, etc. But using current day examples. We've learned a lot from Bible characters like David and Joseph, right? But then I think it's important to also learn from current day examples as they walk with God as well. So this week we're going to have someone amazing, very dear to my heart. Someone that I say has been very key to my own personal intimacy walk with God as well. Her name is Dr. Esther Longe. She's a transformational leader, and her mission is to bring people to a point of intimacy with God, or bring them back to intimacy with God. One superpower that I know she has, and I have seen it in my life, is her ability to get to the root cause of an issue very quickly, and also provide clarity as well. She's an author. She wrote a recent book called God's Own Unicorn, and this is about her journey with God, from surviving a plane crash, even from her childhood, surviving a plane crash, going through survivor's guilt, and also her intimacy work with God. There are a lot of stories that are very inspiring, and one that I believe you would definitely be blessed with. So if you want to have a copy of, obviously, then of course many platforms, Amazon, etc. as well. She's also a coach. She does the unicorn program. She's a mentor. She's a marketplace pastor. She has done so many things, across the body of Christ. So I'm very happy to be able to interview her at this time. So today we're going to start with a topic which I've titled Focus. Focus. Why is it important to focus on what God has called us to do? So join me in an interview, and let us dive in. Hi Esther, welcome to Jola Speaks. Thank you for joining us today. We are very honored and grateful for you to join us on this wonderful podcast. We've been learning a lot from biblical characters, learning through their experiences, and learning lessons through that. But one thing that's quite important also to learn from point examples like yourself, and it's very important for us to learn more about what's happening even in today's age as well. So we've asked you a couple of questions about your experience, in your journey with God, and that as a lot of literary conversation to exactly what you have to discuss today.
Thank you so much, Jola, for having me. I look forward to a fruitful conversation.
Thank you. So my first question will be on focus. A couple of months ago, we had a conversation, and in that conversation, it was very clear to me that even though I had thought of focusing on, what God was asking to focus on, I was afraid to focus on the distraction. And I'm a very focused person, which meant that I'll focus so squarely on this particular distraction. But that's what made me see what was happening and help me realign myself, to back to where God was, asking me to focus on. So my question for this: how does one know when they are out of alignment with God's plan, and direction for their lives?
I think that even if we look at that example, the only way you can know is by asking God Himself. Because a lot of times we run. So as human beings, especially type A personalities, we're like, okay, Lord, give me the headlines, and I'll figure everything else by myself. But God created us for relationship, meaning that He doesn't want us to take a step out of step with Him. So He doesn't want us walking ahead of Him. He doesn't want us walking behind Him. He wants us walking in step. And depending on where you are in your relationship with God, it is very subtle sometimes, the misalignment. Because when you are still figuring yourself out in your journey with God and sin, okay, I'm in sin, I'm living in sin. But when you are actually living with God and walking with God, then you realize that you're out of alignment by the things that you begin to say, by the complaints that you begin to make. So if you look at Jeremiah 15, for example, Jeremiah says, and I paraphrase from verse 15 to 31, which is the end. He says, I do not sit with the jiggers, I don't sit with those that are sinning. I don't do meek, I don't do party. Do you understand? Your words came and I ate it like honey. But have you been to me like a deceitful brook or like waters that fail? And the Lord said to him in his response, if you return to me, then I'll return to you. I'll make you a fortified bronze wall. Meaning that Jeremiah didn't realize that he had come out of alignment. And so he says, if you return to me, then I'll return to you. So the alignment comes from actually taking our hearts back to the Lord and say, Lord, check me. Am I still operating according to your will? Have I started running off in my own steam? And then the Lord now directs us back into his will.
Another very good point. Thank you. And just on that same question. So when, as you've said towards the last part, when we realize that we are no longer in alignment with God's plan, asking him will show us, and that will also bring us back to where we should be in terms of God's plan and all that. Thank you for that. And just to take a bit notcher, different from what we just discussed. So life is busy. We all have you are extremely busy. We all extremely busy in life, and sometimes that base can be distraction in a relationship with God. And sometimes we find ourselves praying and remembering that X, Y, Z, But how have you been able to maintain that, posture, with God constantly every single day, despite, how busy you are, as with all the roles that you're performing constantly, every day?
I will not say that. So I'm still a work in progress like anybody else. And one of the devil's tricks is literally distractions. That's the biggest thing. If he can get you to be distracted, then they can get you to lose focus, because focusing on God means that you are in alignment, like you're literally walking step by step. And for me, I begin to realize that I'm out of alignment or out of focus when things begin to get to me, when I begin to get super overwhelmed. And for me, I can't function outside of focus. I can't function outside of God. And when I realize that everything and the kitchen sink are being thrown at me, then I have to fight for my ability. And it's a fight. It is literally a fight. And so for me, that looks like waking up early at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. when everybody else is sleeping, to just be like, Lord, I'm overwhelmed, help me. Pockets in the day when I am overwhelmed with the day, just Lord help me, Lord help me. And it's literally like a marriage. That there's a way that a husband and wife can begin to be like parallel ships. You get co-parenting, taking the children to school, sorting out bills, but you begin to lose intimacy. And when you realize that is happening, you almost have to call like Esther Longe. Okay, we need to go on a date, we need to have a retreat, we need to do whatever is necessary to get back to that place of intimacy. And then it's not that all the time you'll be able to spend 5 hours a day chatting, right? Because that's, I think, another mistake that people make. And then guilt now overwhelms them to the point where they're like, oh Lord, I don't have that time. But if you think about even a couple that are in good communication, in the morning, they greet themselves, right? In the car, they catch up. They get to work, and then the boss calls for a meeting and they send a message, please pray for you. That's what I mean. They're constantly communicating. It may be 5 minutes, in every communication, but throughout the day, they are never out of communication. And then when they can, at the weekend, then they catch up for longer. When they can, they schedule a time to get to spend hours. And that's how, because the Lord calls himself, our husband man, he calls himself the lover of our soul. He wants us to be in constant communication with him. And that's how we maintain that focus and that alignment with him.
So today we discussed focus and how we know, or how we will know if we are in alignment with God. And I really like what Esther said about Jeremiah, right? And also the fact that it's based on what we are saying from our mouths, that we're able to tell, are we really in alignment, with what God has called us to do? Second point also note is also the fact that, in our lives, we can be so busy when we have so many roles. Life can be so busy that we feel like we have no time for God. But it's in those times that it's important also to continue to commune and communicate with God. Whether it's waking up early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to pray and just sit with God, or over the course of the day to always have touch points. Keep speaking to God as you go across the day to maintain that relationship with God, because it's extremely important to always constantly seek God's face. So that's it from us today. I know you were blessed. I was too. Have a wonderful day ahead. God bless you, and I love you. Bye.